Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Behind the Dish Softball. I'm your co-host, Ashley Rowley, along with Dr. Allie Dake and Shelby Babcock. Today and this month, we are going to start a series focused on the mental performance side of it. We've heard from a lot of our listeners saying, we want more tools, we want more tools. So this month, we're really going to focus on tools. We know as former athletes and mental skills professionals and performance skills professionals that to succeed in the game of baseball and softball, you have to be able to control what's going on between your ears. This is a game of failure. You are going to fail more than you succeed. And dealing with that and learning from that and building off of that is what makes this game so incredibly hard. So today, Dr. Allie is going to give us an overview of what to expect for the next, what are we doing, 4 episodes on this? 5 episodes?
4 episodes, yeah.
4 episodes on it. And really the title is going to be G.A.M.E.S Mental Performance Strategy. And where we're going to break down every letter of that word G.A.M.E.S to give you tools and feedback on how to really hone in on your mental skills, let go of failure, learn how to control anxiety, communication, everything basically that you need to set yourself apart on the field to become an elite athlete. So Dr. Allie, go ahead and give us kind of an overview of what we're going to focus on here.
Hi, everyone. Good morning or good day, any time of day, I guess.
Whatever time
of day it is. It's morning for us when we record.
Wherever you're listening from.
Wherever you're listening from. Welcome. Yeah, so John, who was on our podcast a few weeks ago, and I have been doing mental performance coaching for quite a while now. And we came up with the system G.A.M.E.S. And honestly, it's built from a lot of different aspects of psychology and visualization and meditation and all of that. All of the great coaching performance coaches out there, they have their own systems. And so it's a system similar to that, except for it's a blend of everything coming together. And we take a whole system approach for this mental performance so that we can strengthen your internal processes for your brain. So we have, I think of it like this and I explain it like this. We have workouts for our body. We have lifting, we have CrossFit, we have all these different kinds of workouts for those muscles. Well, this system G.A.M.E.S is like the mental push-up. It's how we strengthen that brain so that you can stay balanced and developed and focused inside of the game. And also, as a high-performing athlete, you're also probably high-performing in everything else in your life. So you can apply this system to anything else, such as your academics or another sport if you're a multi-sport. And so what Ashley said is that each letter in G.A.M.E.S represents something. So I'm just going to go ahead and break it down. So G stands for goals. And when the science and the research behind this always looks, especially in sports, because that's our platform, it looks at elite performers. And elite performers always set and achieve small goals along the way. They don't just decide to be a D1 player. They don't just decide to be a major league player. They have baby steps along the way, what we call scaffolding. And so when you start to look at your goals, you want to be super intentional with them. And you want to set achievable goals along the way. And as you start to achieve them, you celebrate them, and then you start to create stretch goals. The one thing that always happens is people set goals and that becomes an expectation. And they're like, I have to have it. And then when they don't reach it, what happens? They spiral down.
Downward. Yeah.
Right. And so I say no expectations. Expectations actually set you up for failure. So everything becomes a goal, right? And so I am going to guess that you two had goals along the way. Oh, I want to start being a catcher. I want to be a pitcher. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be D1 instantly, right?
Yeah.
So you ready?
Or maybe you did. Ashley, maybe.
I know, right? But here's where, if I could go back and do my career over again with what I know now, holy buckets, I might be wearing red, white, and blue on the Olympic team because I'm older than Shell, and we didn't really have this training. We didn't have this at all.
No.
Okay. So I got by because I was a heck of an athlete with a heck of a work ethic, and I didn't take the word no. Right. But when I got to the University of Florida, and I remember this specifically, my freshman year, of course, we started with goal setting, right? And here was my goal. I want to be an All-American. Okay. Now, as a freshman, that's great. How the heck are you going to get there, Ash? Is that realistic in 1 year? No, it wasn't for me, because I was learning how to walk all over again because I had major knee surgery 4 weeks ago. Right. But I didn't have the stair-stepping tools, right? The day by day, the year by year platform to help me reach that. So I'm going to be an All-American by doing what every single day. That's the piece. I didn't know how to do that in a goal setting. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, plot twist. Hey, mind blown.
Yeah. No, I think one of mine was, a lot of mine was like having a visual. I wrote down things, I had goals, but a lot of it was more, I needed to see things. A big thing for me when I was growing up is I always wrote a new speed in an expo marker on my mirror to hit that next goal of a speed. And not that speed is everything in pitching, because it's totally not. And we're going to talk about that in an episode.
Speed, baby.
Yes, we are. It's coming.
Yes. But also I had a picture of me. My dream forever was to play at Arizona. So that was my dream forever. I always had a picture of me. I was 12 years old and I was standing on the pitcher's mound at the University of Arizona because we had went there as a team to go visit. And so I always had it just right there next to my mirror looking at that. And it was just something as a reminder every single day when I woke up. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to Arizona, but it was a visual of like, okay, where am I working towards? This is what I want. What am I going to do to get there?
Right. So. And you just, yes, you wanted to go there, but that goal, there was scaffolding. Like
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens is people set a goal and then they don't understand that it's actually all this series of tiny goals along the way.
Absolutely.
And they need to be celebrated, but you have to keep your feet in the dirt is what I always say, because that's a goal. Keep your feet in the dirt because the next one's right behind it, right?
Absolutely.
So,
well, and we're going to expand on in this episode that's focused on the goal setting, which will be the next episode. We're really going to take a deep dive, and you touched on something, Shelby. You had the visual up where you would see it every single day, and we're going to talk about that and how impactful that is in that next episode surrounding goal setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we have G as goals, A is affirmations, and this is probably in this system, one of my favorite pieces is the affirmations, because we take a goal and then we turn it into an affirmation. And you are what you think, and you are how you talk. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that there is an enormous amount of psychology and neuroscience behind affirmations. There's research that shows you that it reduces stress. It increases hormones inside of your body. And when you set up your affirmation the right way, it is super, super successful. And everybody, I think in a few episodes ago, we heard John talk about how he walked around, I think it was Chicago, and he had on his headphones, and all day long, he just had to say that same.
I hunt fastballs.
That's all he does. So what we do is we take those goals from G, the goals, and we turn them into affirmation statements. And that's what you say. And then when it comes into the later part of the games and the M and the mental, we turn those affirmations into transitions. So if he was saying, I hunt fastballs, he would be saying that through in the dugout, on the deck, and as he's stepping into the box the whole time. I hunt fastballs. That's all he'd be saying, because now he's trained his brain. So when it comes out of our mouth, it's like manifested, and then you hear it. And so your brain processes it and it pushes away anything else.
Well, there's like sayings, right? Your thoughts become your words become your actions.
Right. Yeah. And in this process, when we talk about this later in another episode, we'll teach you how to set up sentence structures, because we speak with a double negative, which actually tricks our brain to do the opposite of what we're saying. And so when you set up affirmations, it is so important that we set them up in a positive sentence structure.
So coaches,
and I'm going to use a negative right now. We don't speak like that. So,
don't swing at the rise ball. Don't drop your hands. Stop dropping your hands. That
is a negative. Negative.
And so that's what you're saying. So then you have you're in the box. You're like, don't swing at the high balls. You just told yourself. So it
all your body heard. And I'm geeking out about this because I'm excited about it. But yes, we're going to dive deeper into that.
I know, it's so exciting. I want to say right now we're kind of taking the approach with games as a player, but the games can also be applied to a parent or to a coach. And so we can teach this anyway. But the most important thing that you need to understand is that for every one negative comment, it takes 21 positives of that same negative comment to take it away. So if you said, I can't believe you just swung at that. Nobody swings at those. You now have to say 21 times, hey, you're the best hitter. I love how you swing that bat, just to get rid of that one negative. And so that's why it's so important that these sentence structures are set up in a positive way. Shelby, I remember you talking a few episodes ago, and when you went from high school into the circle in college, and all of a sudden you're like, I have these 3 pitches. Remember?
Yeah. It was, I just remember going from, high school and club ball and then going into that college phase. And it was just so much different and on a higher platform, to the point where my brain didn't know how to react to anything. And I had to go back to what I knew, and I had to talk myself through those things. Right. And my biggest thing was short and simple sentences right before I threw a pitch. It was, here comes my best drop ball on the outside corner. And that's what it had to be. It had to be just straight to the point.
Straight to the point. And that's what they are. And that was a positive sentence structure. And I remember when we talked about it that day, I was like, yes, that was so exciting. And you figured that out on your own. And again, to your point, like, had you had this training?
Yep.
So A stands for, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Like, again, I'm geeking out on this because there's so much.
We're getting excited.
Like,
I'm seeing a lot, especially with my hitters, because we're a month away from tournament starting, right? And club coaches are, getting super excited, getting into practice, and they're over coaching to where every time a hitter gets in the box, you don't have to fix 10 things. We're at the point in the season where we have to put that drill, the hard, like, do this, do this, do this. It has to go away. And we have to start focusing on in-game mental approach. And these hitters have to know that they're good hitters. And when we're constantly every practice, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Oh my goodness, gravy. Their mind is just about ready to explode. And guess what? It's making them worse because of that.
Well, and that's what's so awesome about this system is, and we're going to get there. It goes into the evaluation part of this, but we teach the player to pick one thing and only focus on that. By the time they're playing comp ball, there's things that they can be working on, but they know how to get in there and how to swing. And
we're always reinforcing the mechanics, but you don't know. It's not a list.
It's got to be what they feel they need to improve on. The one thing, we create a goal around it. We then set an affirmation so that when they're stepping on, in the hole, on the deck, and then in the box, that they actually are saying that transition the whole way through. And that's all they're thinking. They're not thinking about all the 50 million things, right? And it also goes into the fact that it takes, because we know female athletes are also thinking about the pants I'm wearing, my uniform, my hair, did I braid it right? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going through their head as they're walking up to the box. And so in front of all the people. So this also helps remove that clutter that's in our brain and get rid of all that extra debris and really stay intentional and focused to create that flow. The other one, the next letter is M, and it's my mental game.
You're right. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to spell it for a minute.
A-M. So my mental game, and my mental game has 2 parts to it. It has your pregame and your end game part to it, because that's where all the mental really, really starts to come together. And so this is where your brain power is. And this is from the very beginning. And this whole process is really circular in how they evolve around each other. But you have to know who you are. To be a confident, strong, and balanced player, and that's why we started this whole entire season with the pie. You have to know who you are and where your values set. And so part of getting your brain power is finding out who you are and being balanced and knowing your pie, so that when you come into this, you can stay completely focused. In the pregame portion of my mental game starts from the second you wake up on every day. The last thing you think before you go to sleep is the very first thing you think when you wake up. So last night I went to sleep thinking about actually this podcast today and talking about this. And it was the very first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning. So
same.
Probably when you got my 3 a.m. text saying, hey.
if it is game day, you need to go to bed. And we heard John talk about this, right? How he spent time like thinking about visualizing. He could talk about the whole entire stadium. He closed his eyes.
And we heard Todd talk about it too on the football side. Yeah. He could visualize the blade of grass. He could see it.
Yep.
Right. As he was in, yes, that is what we're talking about. So in part of this process is you learn how to do visualization, right? And this is where this all starts to come out and play, is that you begin with, you fall asleep thinking and doing your visualizations, you wake up doing your visualizations, and then you start with your affirmations, and then you start with your routines and rituals. Music moves us. It causes emotion inside of us. And so we teach, like there's teams out there that use walk-up songs, and girls are picking songs. Well, they're picking songs that like pump them up and make them move. And that's what it should do.
This is so funny, you guys. This is gonna date me. This is gonna date me, and so I'm sorry.
Well, I've already thrown mine.
Comp ball has changed so much since I played.
Yeah, now they get walk-up songs.
Walk-up songs in comp. The amount of devices that are strapped to the backstops, like it's funny to me. I mean, it's awesome, but I remember a walk-up song being a rite of passage in college.
Same, yes, or being on film, for example, being on TV. That was a
I know.
I
just officially made myself really old, but
yeah.
Anyway,
and often I talk to parents. I'm like, maybe you want clean music. We don't want profanity out there in the games, but the word, sometimes it's not the words that the player is hearing. It is more the beat of the song, right? Sometimes
we had Usher.
Right?
Let's go! Like I remember my senior year when they were announcing the team, like it was the rhythm, it was the beat, like you were in, it was go time. I loved it. I love walking.
Right. And so whether a team does or doesn't is a different conversation, have walk-up songs, but I have the players always choose a playlist of of their walk-up songs, their mental songs. And on the way to the field, that's what they're plugged in and they're listening so that they can get into the zone. And so they can start their affirmations and they can start to get into that feeling. And so all of that is what we call like pre-game work inside of my mental game. And I can put all the science behind all of this with research. It's absolutely amazing. I can geek out on that too, Ash, like really quick.
Well, and something like maybe this is a whole podcast conversation in and of itself, but the concept of pregame focus in the flow. How many times do you see teams go through pre-games and they're hitting whiffles and they have like their hoodie tied, they're, around their head, they're so cold, they're going through the motions. Oh, what'd you do last night? Obviously that's not a solid pre-game mental approach.
Right.
So how do you as an athlete, maybe if your teammates aren't on this same page, focus level, right? How do you really lock in and hone in on that in your pregame warm-up? Because I see so many pregame warm-ups where they're so aloof. Yeah. Oh my gosh, hi, it's so cold. I'm tired. I stayed up too late.
And there you go. You've already taken a baseline of the game and you've taken it down a notch. You've already brought it down mentally down to this other level. And I know that we've been talking about bringing an episode on how you choose the right team, right? Yep. And I feel like that pregame part of how they warm up is part of that conversation, right? Like we've talked.
This could be a whole podcast.
Topics coming. How do you pick a team? Well, pregame is definitely part of it. The second part is like in game. And this is where those affirmations that I talked about earlier come really strong into play. So we've used, hitting with the transitions, taking that affirmation to transition, and we use it with pitching. But there's other positions on the field, right? And not letting a pass ball go as a catcher. In the outfield, when a ball got past you and you're running to it and you turn around and you have to let it go because there's another ball coming. I mean, in any position, that's the case. And so that's where these affirmations.
Give up a bomb on the mound, right?
Yep.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I was talking about in one of our posts that we posted the other day about the positive self-talk drill that I do with my pitchers and making sure that the first thing or the last thing that you say to yourself when you pitch the ball is positive, right? But then it could have been a bomb that got hit off of you. You got to turn around, you got to let it go. And the next thing that you're doing is positive again. You got to get right back on the mound and do the same exact thing.
Right. So, and those transitions have to be able to flow in whether you're a hitter, in position, you're sitting on the bench, cheering on the team, no matter whatever your role is in that inning, you are saying those and you have those. And again, that comes back to the goals and then turning them into affirmations. And that language is so, so important.
Well, and I think this is going to be huge too, because how many times do you see athletes, whether it's in practice or lessons, thriving, and they get to games and they struggle. So recreating and what is the difference right there, right? It's the environment, it's the emotions, it's the pressure they're feeling, it's the nerves, how they control that. And it all is consistent with that pregame, in-game mental approach, the visualizations, the words that you say to yourself is how you replicate that low pressure environment when you're in workouts, lessons, practice, and putting it in that high pressure environment. This is when all of that kicks in.
Yep. Yeah. And you hit right on one of the other parts in here is visualization. So I talked about what you think at night, and we do visualization practice parts, right? This is where that visualization comes out. Because if you're out in the field and somebody hit a home run behind you, you couldn't get it, hit the fence, whatever, right? You have to let it go. You have to envision so that you're not holding on to that. Or if you made an error, right? You made an error. It fell out of your gloves. It just happens, right? How do I let it go? So you have to visualize that process so that you're constantly letting it go, because here comes another ball and you have to mentally be ready. And this is the part that I feel the in-game portion is all of the work that you do outside of the game.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm talking about those mental push-ups, right? All of the work and all the rest of this acronym that you do all comes to a head right here in this space, on how you can't let it go. It's hard to let it go if you don't practice visualizing and speaking it into existence.
So that was, I was going to say, it's the work you do or the work you don't do. Yep. It will find you. The game will expose what you don't do.
Yes, it will.
And then also, that's true, like in the diamond and out of the diamond, right?
Yeah, everywhere.
And these strategies that we'll talk about in the mental game is what helps create the flow during the game, that it's this whole entire process really comes together in that space. The E in games is evaluate, and that's your post game. And what's really important here is that you look back into the game from the lens of learning. So, and you only spend 5 minutes. At the end of the day, you only get 5 minutes of looking into the game, seeing what worked. How could I do that better? Celebrating the things you did good, but taking out, not so that you can spiral down, oh, I'm the worst player, I can't, No, it's to look and say, oh, that ball did fall out of my glove when I dove for it. So what do I need to do to have that not happen again? And then we go back up to the goal. Okay, now I'm going to work on, diving and catching for the next 3 weeks until it's whatever it is, create an affirmation in it. And then that transition, when you're going out onto the field to play that position, I catch every ball stays in my glove. Every ball stays in my glove, right?
Well, you talked about music. Music was a big thing for me before and after a game. So I would actually go and put my headphones in right after a game as well.
Well, and that's when I teach this system to parents, the E part, that car ride home, you don't talk about it.
It's like, I'm not talking to my parents right now.
If you do talk about it, it's non-emotional. It's not about you as the parent and how you played. And you ask open-ended third-person questions. Because we want to deflate any emotion that player is feeling. So this part gets hard because it's important to go back and look in the game. And I remember both of you have made various different comments about how in high school, like, you didn't really do that. But when you got into college, all of a sudden you're watching videotape of yourself from the games and you're like, you have to go back and learn. And, if you're not taught how to analyze properly, you can really spiral down quickly. And we see it. We've all done it. We all feel like see these kids these days really starting to spiral down quickly.
Yeah. Well, and that was a thing for me when I was watching video. It wasn't even necessarily on me. It was of the batters, but you see them go hit a bomb off of this pitch or some whatever. But the first thing that kind of started to come back into my head when I was on the mound was, well, she hit a bomb off that pitch. I don't want to throw this. I don't want to do that. And it kind of started making me go backwards. So I had to go and watch when I was striking them out, or I was doing something good, or I was, you know, obviously the positive part of it, because I didn't want it to go back to negative. So that was something I had to change, was watching video as well. That was super hard for me.
Well, and watch a highlight reel almost of yourself, seeing yourself succeed and be awesome. Right?
Yep.
Right. And
well,
then,
that's what's so awesome too about, I guess, well, kind of awesome. I don't really love it a whole lot, but that the girls are getting filmed now on the, like at a younger age. Right. So a lot of my girls that are going through issues, I'm like, find a video of yourself that you are just dominating, and go back and look at that and build on that success. Right. Stop thinking about that negatives. Yeah. It's so the highlight reel is totally works.
Well, Shelby, in your lessons too, you will record them so they can see themselves, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, you do it so quick and so honest and direct that they don't have time to look at anything else. You're like, oh, see what your hand did here? Okay, let's correct.
Yeah, let's go correct it. Yep.
Right in the moment. And that is the way we want to do the evaluation.
Yeah. But I want to point out, it's also important the way that you as a coach, Shelby, are communicating the words that you're choosing when you're giving that evaluation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's an amazing job at it.
You're sweet. Thank you.
So again, and this kind of comes back to going back and learning, and the last thing you think at night is also what you think in the morning. And so we take that tool out of the evaluation, post-game evaluation, and we spend 5 minutes checking into it, looking at it, and it turns into the error that was made isn't a failure. We turn it into a learning opportunity, reset it as a goal, and push it back down through the system. And then the S is stress relief. Here's what I like to talk about when I talk about stress. Stress actually isn't a bad thing. Now, when it becomes chronic and it is debilitating you, that's one thing. But when you feel stress, that actually means that you care. You care that you let a pass ball, or that the pitch wasn't right, you didn't hit your spot, or whatever it is. You care about it. So I say you see it, you own it, and you use it. And so by seeing it, neuroscience says that when we recognize that is stress, that we actually are instead of being reactionary, we become cognizant and deliberative with it, right? And when I say you own it, I mean that you turn it into like a positive motivation instead of a negative, like, oh, I always do that and it stresses me out. That's not how we talk about it, right? You recognize that stress actually releases some hormones in your body, and evolutionary, that's what made us move forward and progress and kind of drives. It can be a driver to make a correction. And so that's how we like to look at stress. What we do like to do with it, though, is to get to that higher ground away from it after a game. So Shelby talked about putting in music, right? Some people need to decompress and completely walk away, go do something else, right? Everybody, some people need to meditate. Some people need to go do breathing. Some people just need a shower, whatever it is.
Well, Todd talked about his, after workouts, mind right meditations after every workout.
Every workout. I know. I started doing that the last week. I actually really like it.
Love it.
Certainly, there's all different ways to get to higher ground in which we do, and that's what's most important with the stress part after an intense game or a practice, is that you actually give your body the break that it needs from the mind. Like when you're in that flow, all you're doing is immersed in that. You have to get your mind a break from it.
Well,
otherwise, that's when that stress becomes horrible.
Stress always exists, like you said. The stress is perceived and compounded by our mindset.
Yep.
Right? Yep. So that's where those affirmations come back into play.
Yep.
Right. So that is games. It's easy and it's complicated. And yet it's fun. Like we said, we can totally dive into each one of these, which we're going to do.
Yes.
We have an amazing lineup coming up, and conversations already formed around these topics. And hopefully at the end, everybody will have a tool set that they can use. As a parent, we'll talk about it from a parent's perspective or from an athlete's perspective as we move through it. Even coaches, I'm training coaches right now with this.
Especially
coaches. Yeah, I was going to say.
I have a whole group of coaches I'm working with already that are excited about it and to learn it. And I think why we call it a whole system approach is because, well, we can teach coaches this, but now we have to teach players. And then we have to teach parents so that everybody's on the same page and playing, moving through it. And so that's what's awesome about it.
So this is probably the hardest work and the best work that we can do as athletes. Yeah. Like you said, it's a muscle, and it's going to take consistent training and a repetition to get it right. Okay. And it's most important in times where it's the hardest, when you're struggling. The mental aspect is easy when you're playing well. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
As coaches, I'm going to say this is probably the most important for you, because for athletes, this is going to start as an awareness. Start creating awareness of what are your thoughts? What are you feeling? What is your routine? But coaches, you are the ones that are going to reinforce in those moments, because you can see when an athlete is spiraling up or spiraling down, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is when you're really going to reinforce that. Now, in my corporate life, we did a training where all of us took an emergenetics. It was called emergenetics, right? It's a personality profile. It's more of a thinking style profiling, right? Like, this is your thinking style. And what this was geared towards is, how do we work together as employees, or i.e. teammates, or as managers or coaches? How do we best get the best out of our employees or kids, right? So coaches, you are coaching female athletes. You need to understand how they think, how we think, how we're wired. Okay. And just as an example of things that we're going to talk about is the words you choose. I have coaches, they're male coaches of girls, obviously, that, and maybe it's a attempt at humor, but they say, hey, don't suck today, or I don't hate you today. You have no idea what that is translating to in the minds of your athletes. Yeah. Yep. So I think this work needs to be targeted. Coaches, put your ears on, man, turn them on. And you need to start learning your audience, how they think, and paying attention and having the awareness in these moments where you can see spiraling up, spiraling down. I mean, when my hitters, especially lately, we're working on a lot of mental approach to get them game ready. If I see them struggling, I'll stop them and I'll say, do a mind check. What are you thinking right now? Now, how do we get ourselves back on track? Mm-hmm. And that's that work. So this is going to be really, really exciting. I'm excited to go through all of this.
Right. Yeah. We have a whole system for evaluation on how to learn how to best communication. And whether it's working with the athletes, the teams, the coaches, or the parents, everybody takes the assessment so that they understand who they are, where their blind sides are, like what brings them down and spirals them up. And then you instantly can tell, because of this framework, you can see who the other person is and you understand them from a whole different perspective.
It opens up communication.
Yeah, it is. People take it, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Why didn't I have this earlier in my life, right? Because
that's what I'm thinking.
Well, it's so
100% what I'm thinking.
When I was in corporate, so I worked at an engineering firm, and there was a guy we just didn't jam. We just couldn't vibe. Yeah. And so after I saw his thinking profile versus mine, I was like, okay, this guy's not just a jerk. This is what he's hearing when I say X, Y, and Z, and vice versa. So right now I need to reshape how I present this to him. Yep. And life was a heck of a lot easier.
Yep. But having that thought process, Ashley, and being able to go back and be like, hey, I didn't quite understand what you were saying before, right? Instead of just turning him off and not liking him, right? You kind of went about and figured out how he likes to talk to people, or how he figures out through certain situations, which is very cool of you. And a lot more people could do that.
And that is honestly, it's called emotional intelligence, and it is. And guess what? I'm not emotionally intelligent, y'all. Like it's been 5+ years of a lot of work personally to learn how to do that. And it's called emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And it's that same thing. When you get frustrated, do you spiral down, or can you redirect and come out and change your thoughts? Yeah. You're now becoming an emotionally intelligent person.
Yeah. It is. Emotional intelligence is not universal. It is something that we have to tap into and learn. And it can be learned, and it can be brought up, and I was taught an emotional intelligence,
right? It happens. And everyone should learn it.
But in particular, if you are in a leadership role, or you are a coach, or you're a director,
you're a
parent, right? And so when we teach, like when I teach games, it's kind of embedded in for them players to start learning emotional intelligence. But when we work with coaches and parents, it is one of the very first things that's taught is opening it up, knowing who you are. I mean, John Maxwell said that the most important person you're ever going to lead is yourself, right? And so we always start at that core, at that center. So
yeah, awesome.
I'm really excited for this upcoming.
Yeah, me too.
It's opening up so much for us. I think it's going to tap into everything that a lot of our listeners are asking for and looking for tools. We're going to be putting out tools along the way. As Shelby, we were just talking about, like, okay, we're starting with G next week, which is goals. So we're going to put on our website a downloadable goal form, and you can download. And so if you're listening now, you can go and download.
Setting outline, right? To help.
Yeah, just an outline. Yeah. And right. How to scaffold it. There'll be a scaffolding technique in there so that you can, here's my long-term goal, here's where I want to be and how I scaffold it, right? So that we can make it hit all of the targets along the way. And if you want to go ahead and do that, next week we'll be starting with goals, and then you can carry that tool with you all the way through and see how we'll transition that goal into an affirmation, into a transition, and into the game, how we evaluate off of it, and how we decompress and stress-free.
This is going to be fun. So friends, get ready to just turn on the fire hose, because you're going to start drinking from a fire hose of awesomeness. You're going to get a ton of info. It's going to be great. So
very exciting. Very exciting.
We had a goal, speaking of goals, of keeping this a short episode, and we continue to try.
We're always so good.
And revise to achieve that goal, and we're not quite there yet, but
we're getting there.
On that note, bring us home, and let's get everyone excited for next week's episode.
Awesome. So next week we're obviously going to be starting with goals. We're going to go into the affirmations the next week after that, the mental game after that, evaluation after that, and then stress relief after that. So you got actually 5 upcoming episodes from us with games. So super excited for all of that and all of the information that you guys are going to get. And you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Did I forget anything in those?
All the podcasts.
All the podcasts. Yeah, you can find us pretty much anywhere.
TikTok,
but we
working on that.
Oh, TikTok. Yeah.
We're
getting there. We're gonna have to start dancing.
I am not a TikTok dancing. I can't.
We might have to. I think we might.
And our behind the dish SB or behind the dish.us, right? Okay, yes. Awesome. Yes. All right, us. Okay. Awesome. Well, it was fun chatting today, and I'm super excited for our next episode together.
Have a great day.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, ladies. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.